that I maybe should, I feel like I should talk about. Not that I'm some kind of fucking preacher who's gonna save anyone, but I remember my first anxiety attack, or like, yeah, I think it was, I think I could call it an anxiety attack. I never understood my whole life until I was like 23 anxiety. I had no idea what anxiety was. I'd never felt it. I thought that people were being stupid and were just saying that they are anxious because they were stressed. And I'm like, okay, you can't handle stress. What the fuck? Whatever. Why are you talking so? Oh, I'm in bed. I have anxiety. I can't get up. What? Everyone's stressed. Get the fuck out of bed. Okay, wait. What I'm trying to say is that I have maybe some hopeful words for someone who's suffering a lot from anxiety right now. This is what I thought when I had never experienced anxiety. So one day I wake up, me and Christina had been out after work, and then someone had spiked our drinks. None of us remember how we got home. We were so thankful that we knew the guard that worked at the place that we were at. Because we found out this a year later, maybe even longer, because he started working at the same bar as us later. And he's like, oh, do you guys remember? He sent us home in a cab to each of our homes. After getting spiked, he just dragged us out. We both woke up, but we had all our things, but we still had our coat hanger notes. So probably he just gave us our things. But we woke up. I had to work the day after at 10 in the morning. But I woke up, I'm like, I've never felt this feeling. Yes, somebody spiked our drinks. I woke up with a feeling that I've never felt before. I didn't understand that it was anxiety, but it was just awful. And I was throwing up galla. It's like the thing you're not supposed to throw up. It's like the last thing that you have in your belly. I know. Thank God nothing happened. But I think there was like quite a lot of people at this place that we knew. And we were so out of it that I don't think we could stand up. I think he had to carry us out of there into a fucking cab. I have no idea how I got home. The rest of it, I know my mom thought I was dying when I got home. So anyways, I woke up. I was throwing up like the bad parts of the stomach that you're not supposed to throw up. Is like the last thing, which I never do. Anyways, I woke up with anxiety. First time I ever experienced it. This was like hysterical anxiety because I had no idea how to handle it. I was just laying in my room under my cover. I didn't want to put the lights on. My mom came in. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to go. And it was like emptiness and horror and just like, it was so fun. So scary. It was so scary. This was crazy. Like top crazy fucking impending doom. It was horrible. I think it was some guy. I think I know who it was. I don't know who he is or anything. It was just, I remember us being at the bar and then a guy bought us drinks, but we saw them being given to us by the bartender. But we must have turned around and for fun, he must have put something in there because we didn't talk to him for the rest of the night. Very sad. That's what I got anxiety from. And ever since then, I struggled with anxiety. Yeah, such a fucking dick. Maybe he thought it was funny, but obviously he didn't understand that it was gonna give. Christina didn't go through this. She still doesn't have any. It's never had anxiety, thank God. But it did happen to me. It's like it's chemically induced. It was like created in my body, and I had anxiety after that, which was like fucking horrible. I went through like, I would say 5 years after that. I think the first 3 years was really difficult to work through anxiety. And I remember during these years when I had anxiety, it would be over if I had like just I could have one glass of wine. I would wake up in the morning being like, like having a full blown, not panic attack, but like anxiety attack. And I went to a psychologist, but obviously she's like, why don't you just stop drinking? Well, maybe if I'm drinking one glass of wine or like even half a glass of wine, I'm waking up with total fucking anxiety attack. It's not about the wine. It's about something else. But anyways, I went to her like 2 times and then I just gave up on having a psychiatrist help me with that. Whatever it was, asshole, I don't pay mind to it. Things happen, whatever. I'm living my life. I don't want to be scared of things happening to me. It's fine. It's fine. I conquered it. Maybe it even made me a better person. Beforehand, I would have never understood anxiety. Now I do. It used to be the bane of my existence. I thought that I was like, this is never gonna get better. it's never gonna be good. I'm like, my life was crippled. I was like, I can't travel. Every time like one trip I made to Japan 5 years ago, a good lesson learned. Yeah, that lesson was not learned, but definitely, I don't know. It was like very skillfully done. That's for sure. Now I'm like a fucking hawk. Like I would go like that. I wouldn't even trust the bartender. Anyways, I thought that things were never gonna get better. I thought that the anxiety was just like, I remember posting about it on Instagram, and my mom had told me like, it does get better. And I'm like, I don't believe it. It's been years. I have anxiety before. I could have such anxiety going out to do something. Like, let's say I once in a blue moon had like a meeting. Before going to that meeting, I'd have such an anxiety attack. Like, not attack, I would say just such brutal anxiety, and just like, oh, I don't want to go. And like the mindset, if you've never had anxiety before, I understand that it sounds like, if you've never had anxiety, you don't know how anxiety feels like, and be thankful about it. But when you have anxiety, you just know you have it. There's nothing to wonder about. It brings you into a place where it's like, you are not rational. You're not thinking. You become another person. You don't think the way that you think when you're a normal person. Like, I don't think the way Lynn thinks when I have an anxiety, like, attack. So I got this anxiety from being drugged. I woke up, that was the worst that ever happened, I think. I went to Japan. This was 5 years ago. And travel anxiety is the one, whatever. I had travel anxiety. Like, first real time that wasn't connected to drinking. So me and Lovisa, we had decided that we were gonna go for 3 months to study Japanese in Japan. First night, we booked a cheap ass fucking Airbnb just to be somewhere the first night. And during that time, I was like, I don't care. Let's get the cheapest fucking Airbnb we can find. So I got such a cheap Airbnb I don't even know where it was. I still don't know where we were in Tokyo. But we got this Airbnb that was facing like a brick wall. And then Lovisa, from what I know now, she took her sleeping pill and she falls asleep instantly. And I get super cold. Like my blood just drains from my body. And I'm in the bed next to Lovisa, which also was like, it felt so cramped. It felt so bad. We had the first night in Tokyo. We were going to stay there for 3 months. We had like booked host family. I was almost contemplating. I was like, should we stay for 6 months? But then I come here and it's the first time traveling. And I loved traveling. First time I felt, the first night, everything was so extreme when we were there. It was like coming to Tokyo. We were like 20, I don't know. 20, max 21. I think we were 21. We come to Tokyo and it's just like the whole new world. We have no idea how to even, like, when we were there was no English anywhere. Nobody could speak English and there was no English menus. We didn't know how to translate with apps. We come there the first night, we're like, what are we gonna eat? And we just walk around and we feel so English. We feel so out of place. So out of place. So it's so culturally shocking when we get to Japan. And we get to the Airbnb, like, it's not a complaint, like, that's what I love about Japan. But I wasn't really prepared of the shock of Japan and that we were gonna stay there for so long. I'd never even contemplated that that was gonna be a thing for me. So when we get to the Airbnb, I'm like, I'm gonna be here for 3 months now. And I cannot go home because I will make a fool out of myself. I made YouTube videos about it. I told my friends about it. We've been saving up money. I can't just leave Lovisa there. Like, it was just a horrible. That night, I was like, I can't leave. No matter what, I can't leave here. And she was already sleeping and I was alone. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna shit my pants. And then you know, when you have anxiety, you fucking shit your pants all the time, or at least I do, because it's your flight, right? Flight or flight. So I'm just fucking ice cold in bed, shitting my pants. I can't fall asleep. And I'm like in panic that I cannot go home. And I can't tell anyone. So that's awful. So that's the first time I ever have travel anxiety. And that's the first time I ever have like anxiety unrelated to that, like drinking 1 glass of wine and then, you know, And this goes on for years and years and years and years. And I don't want to travel anymore, you know? And like, I'm like, I don't want to travel anymore. I don't want to put myself through this. I don't want to, you know, when you have anxiety, you don't ever want to experience it again. You don't want to be in that situation again. So after that whole trip, we had a great time. It passed, because anxiety does pass. And then I go to Japan again. I had like this motherfucking site, like, you go to the shrink, they give you the fucking curve, and they'll be like, this is the anxiety, and then it's gonna go up, and then it's gonna peak, and then it can't peak anymore, and then it goes down, and then it goes away. And then I'm like, well, that's a fucking lie, because it doesn't. Yeah, and they go with the curve, and they say that they peak, but it's not fucking true. I went to Japan like a year or 2 years later after that. As soon as I got to Japan, peak. Or like, no, the night before, peak. Then it just went, peak. Or like, I think it's because I managed to keep it not going up here, because I don't want to attack. So it'll be like an anxiety thing, and then it goes not peak, but it goes here, up here, really big. And then it just flat lines. And it was like that for 5 days. Every single night I went to bed, I was having anxiety. Cold as ice. I was just like, it was horrible. It's horrible. And ever since then, the travel anxiety has been the worst. The absolute worst. And I still have a little today. Also, it's hard to be rational when you're having like anxiety, because it makes you want to do, it just makes you think things that is not true. And I can say the same thing about, let me call it a depression, okay? When you're feeling that, you get into a headspace that is not reality. It's not who you are, and it's not the way you actually think. And you get into it, or you can get out of it. And 2 years ago, it was so random. No, it was when I still lived at my mom's. It must have been like 4 or 5 years ago now. I just wake up 5 in the middle of the night. I wake up like, and I just have the exact same depression that I had when I was like 12. I was super like depressed out. I did not want to be here. And I got that mindset back when I woke up in the middle of the night. I think I had a dream about that time. And I remembered what it felt like, because I'd forgotten it. I thought that I was over. I was remembering it as more severe than it was. And I woke up and it was so bad. The way the mind just, it wasn't who I am, and it was just like something else. It's like, I just wanted to say that if you are in a really bad headspace and you're thinking that you don't want to be here, you're really depressed, it's not normal. You're not supposed to think or feel like that. That is not the way your mind works. Really, that I don't care about anything, nothing matters. Like, why even wake up? Why am I doing this? Why am I going to school? Like, there's no point to any of this. Why? Like, it's better that I just end the agony of the being. But that's not normal. That is not normal. And I'm not saying that to be like, I'm not a scientist or fucking everything, but I really think it's a chemical imbalance. And you need to take it like that, and you cannot take the thoughts seriously, because it isn't you. And I know that anyone who's in that situation is not gonna recognize it right now. You're not gonna see what I'm saying as like, oh, that's true. It's not me, because it's like, it makes sense. But it's the same thing that happens when you have an anxiety attack. What you're thinking makes sense. Like, when I had my bad like anxiety attacks, I felt like it was hopeless. I'm gonna live my life like this forever, and I don't wanna live this kind of life. I didn't want to like die, but I just felt like this fucking sucks. My life sucks. I'm not gonna be able to do anything because I'm gonna get anxiety. Please remember, it's not actually you. I don't care. You can tell me whatever you want. It isn't you. You are having a chemical imbalance in your brain, or you just need to get out of whatever situation you are. For me, I got out of it because I got out of the situation I was in, and I've changed my mindset a lot. But when I got back into it, when I woke up, I remembered. I've forgotten now what it felt like, but I remember waking up, feeling it, and remembering how horrible it was. I felt like when I had anxiety, when it had been going on for so many years, this is never going to get better. I'm just gonna always have anxiety. And every time I feel like it's like maybe it's past, it gets back there, fucking hits me in the face, and it's worse and it's just as bad. But when you're depressed, even thinking back on the good times, nothing that you think about is gonna make you happy. You can be like, oh, but what about you wake up in the morning? Maybe I should play some games. I don't want to play games. Well, maybe I should go eat this food that I love. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to watch this show. What's the point? I don't want to do that. The anxiety, I felt like I was never going to get rid of it. I thought that I was stuck with it. I thought that it was like, this is just the way it's going to be. And I hate it so much. And I asked my mom, and my mom told me that like, oh, it's not going to be there. It's going to get better. I'm like, it's not getting better. You told me 3 years ago and I'm still here. And I posted it on Instagram. And I remember, I'm like, I wrote in a title, like this years ago, and I wrote in the title like, oh, just remember my mom told me this, and then I quoted her like, oh, it actually goes away. You don't have to suffer with anxiety your whole life, as like a hopeful thing. And then I wanted to tell you now, as a hopeful thing, that anxiety does go away, and I can tell you from after experiencing what I have no anxiety that I cannot manage super well. I don't even take my anxiety medications anymore when I travel because I know I can handle it. Even when I feel like a little anxiety coming up, it's nothing for me now. It's like, I got this shit. I know. But the way I got here is from constantly putting myself in situations. You guys have seen how much I fucking traveled. I traveled alone. I traveled to the UK like fucking 5 times. I've gone to Mexico, to LA, like obviously this is very expensive, but traveling a lot, even flying to like Norway would have been like a huge anxiety thing for me. But I just put myself in the situation of traveling. And now I've done it so much that it's not as big of a deal anymore. I'm like always like, it's always in the back of my head like, am I gonna get anxiety? But now I know exactly how to treat it. And it took me like so much time. I started out by changing my breakfast diet. Like when I started eating like a fat heavy, that's supposed to be helpful for anxiety. So you eat like avocado, bacon for breakfast. It's supposed to help with anxiety. Food is very important. If you don't eat, anxiety is going to get so much worse. You got to learn how to cope with the anxiety. And the best way to get rid of anxiety is that, unfortunately, you have to put yourself and push yourself. And it fucking sucks. But you have to put yourself in the anxiety-inducing situations. But do it free, like willingly. It would help if you would try to eat a better breakfast game. It would actually help you out a little. It did help me out a little. But the only thing that will actually help is putting yourself in the fucking situation that's causing your anxiety over and over and over and over again. And eventually you will not feel the worst. Hunger has been a huge anxiety for me. And it sounds as if I'm like, it's like when I'm telling you guys, I would rather, if I had the choice to never eat again and just have food on a bag, and it had all the perfect nutrients, everything for me to feel the fucking best. All the vitamins, all the things. I love eating for fun, but I hate eating 3 times a day. It's the worst thing I fucking know. And I hate being hungry. I hate it so much. And when I wake up in the morning, like back in the day and I had anxiety, I couldn't eat even though I was so starving. Am I making any sense? Okay, let me summarize what I was trying to say. Okay, 2 things, I guess. If you're depressed or not loving life right now, you very much are in headspace that I feel like I'm talking as someone who's like, I'm not. But if you're depressed, you most likely have an issue that you need to talk to a doctor with, because it can very well be a chemical imbalance in your brain. And the second point, if you have anxiety and you feel like it's hopeless and you feel like you're gonna live with this all your life, I've had a lot of anxiety, and I no longer, almost barely ever experience anxiety. Maybe like 2 times a year. So it does get better. But I do think that I have to add that if you don't try to put yourself in situations to push your anxiety, you're not going to get far. Can I say that? I'm not. It would just be my recommendation. If you have anxiety, push yourself to do the things that give you anxiety. And at least I can try to give you my perspective as someone who's gone through something like that and come out the other side feeling really good And I just want to give you like a little hope that it does get better, you know?